Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Evenant Design, Sailing 101. Now, the very first thing you need to know in order to become a good sailor is how to tie a good bowline knot. Start off with your good quality rope, make a little loop, like so, and the rabbit comes up through the hole, around the tree, and down back through the hole. Now that's a good bowline knot. This is useful for tying sails, holding things up, anchor lines. Come on, Walid, this is not a sailing channel. Alright guys, sorry about that, I got a little bit carried away. I'm right now on my boat. It's a 28 feet sailboat. I have it here in my harbor in Gothenburg, in the west coast of Sweden. And we have like several thousands of islands out here, so it's really fun to sail around here and go on adventures. So yeah, the topic of today is how to paint water in environment paintings. So you know, painting lakes, rivers, the ocean, and waterfalls and stuff like that. So it's all about water today. So when you're painting water, you really have to think about the different properties that water has, or how it acts in nature due to different conditions. So water can be transparent, it can be completely clear and translucent, meaning you see through it and then you have to paint what's under it. And also water can be opaque, so it could have like a bunch of dirt and sand and other things in it that make it look murky or non-transparent. And it also has to do with color. So when people talk about painting water or water overall, they think that water doesn't have an inherent color to it, but that's not always true. Water can definitely have a lot of color due to algae or for example, the glacial waters up in alpine regions. The ice, the glaciers, they press down into the mountains and the rock basically got dissolved into the ice, releasing all the minerals, and that's what makes the water blue or turquoise or green, in Norway and in Austria and stuff like that, when you have those beautiful blue, green, turquoise waters. So we have to think about that as well when we're painting what sort of scene we have, or if it's a tropical beach, then we have like different sort of, I think it's about the algae in the water that makes it look a certain color. And also we have to think about reflectivity. So water is one of the few things in nature that are purely naturally reflective. And that's something we have to think about because water also moves. And that creates some different reflections for us, and it depends on the angle that we're looking at the water. So if there's a lot of waves, we have like a lot of angles, and how do we paint that, So without any further ado, let's abandon the ship and head back home and check out how to paint water. Alright then guys, I'm back home and we're inside of Photoshop CC 2017. So I've gathered a few references for us to look at when it comes to water, how it appears in nature, in what types of scenes and so on. I mean, we all know what water looks like, but I think it's good, it's a really good practice to always try to find references for what you're about to paint. Because even if you know what it looks like, you might not know exactly all the details or what's most important with it. So let's just take a look at a few of the references that I have here. So the first one here, we can see that there's a lake and there's mountains in the background. And this lake basically has there's no wind here right now. So it has like a perfect mirror finish to this lake. And there's not much to this for if you want to paint it. I mean, it's basically just, copy this bit in the top and then basically flip it up, flip it vertically, and voila, you have like a mirror. So it looks like a lake. I'm going to show you how to do that later. So that's one thing. And then here we have another, but here we actually have some water, maybe some currents. And And it's making these ripples in the water, making this look like all the lights here look like vertical and like lines. And that happens because, so let's try to explain this in a simple way. You can see that there's like light rays or light reflections all the way down. Like, why are they so long? And that's because the water is like a mirror, right? So and since there's like a bunch of ripples here, of waves, the light will actually reflect even further down. So you can imagine, like, let's try to illustrate this. So let's remove this, turn this to white. So you have a light source right here. And so that's the lamppost, right? Here's the bridge, and here's the water. So you can, and anyway, you're standing right here. So you would imagine that you would only be able to see, just regularly like that. But since the waves are at different angles here, you can see that they're angled differently. Here's like that, here's like that, and you can imagine like all of these are like mirrors. So if it was perfectly flat like this, we would only see basically like that. We would only see around here. So kind of like just a straight mirror, but we don't have that. We have like waters here, ripples here. So all of these mirrors are like bouncing like this. So it's bouncing even out here. It's bouncing here because this mirror here is a little bit angled, so towards you, and that's why we can see so many so long light rays right here. And we only see them like drawn out like that because we can't see any sideways reflections, only vertical. That's why they look blurred vertically. I hope that makes sense. And then we have this one right here, and this is basically just a regular creek. And we have a little bit of everything here. Like you can see these vertical lines here too for the reflections. And also right here we can see that we're actually looking right through the water and into the what's beneath it. Here we can't actually see what's beneath, it's only like reflecting. But here we can actually do that because it's darker here, and yeah, there's no light there, so we can see right through there. And here's very bright, so we can see that too, and we can see all the ripples here. And here we have another one with just a regular river. And it's basically just reflecting the sky. We can't see anything under it. We can only see the sky, and that's why it's brighter than the surrounding area here. And that's why also it's blue. This water probably doesn't have any inherent color to it. It might have, but it's primarily just reflecting the sky color here. That's why it's blue. And then we can see some dark reflection here from this tree, and a little bit more here, and so on. Let's make this completely black. Here we have the ocean. There's like no mirror finish here. It's just a bunch of chaos here. Here is more like a mirror, so it's reflecting the sky again. And this is reflecting the sun here, so it's naturally brighter around this area, around the sunny area. And you can see also an interesting thing that I noticed recently is that oceans, they have, or waves in oceans, they have this sort of like triangular shapes to them. Like you can see that the waves are kind of triangular everywhere. So that's something to think about when we're painting oceans, to make the waves look sort of triangular. And then the water is like the waves are coming here, crashing in, making some white foam here. And here is basically just blank. And here we have tropical beach. So this actually does have an inherent color of its own. That's very typical for tropical places. Even if this was a completely overcast day, this water would still be pretty turquoise. And we can see a lot through it because it's very clear and it's white sand under it. So, just a basic few ripples here. We can also see that the flow of the water is sort of like coming in towards the island like that. You know, you can see that the water wants to go there. All the waves are like this, right? And then they go out like that. And that's something to think about when it comes to perspective when you're painting water as well. And the last one we have is this one. It's just a waterfall. We all know what waterfalls looks like. And if we analyze this, we can see that on top of the mountain here, where the water is coming from, where it's flowing from, it's pretty like you know, focused, I guess. And then we could see the water streams way more focused up here. But then as it goes down, it basically just dissolves into the air and becomes mist. And just more like vertically like that. So that's something to think about as well when we're painting waterfalls. So I thought we were gonna do just a few of the different types of water bodies. You know, look at maybe a pool first with a little bit of with some stuff there, maybe a tree and a rock. And then I'm gonna look at how to make a river, just a simple river. And lakes, oceans, and a waterfall. And then in the end, we're gonna put it together to make like one scene with a few of the water types. All right, so let's turn this into a bit brighter here. Something, yeah, let's do like that. And I'm working on 3000 by 2000 canvas. Let's make a new layer. We can call this pool. So when I start painting water, I usually like to have like a full scene, you know, so I know, because water is very reflective, and it sort of tells how the environment is around it. That's how we know how to paint the water itself. But we can start by just making a small scene around it. So if we make a little pool, let's say we just make a little grassy field. Like that. So. Let's take this one here, just make some grass. And you can find this brush pack in the description. It's the Evenant brush pack. Maybe brighten it up a little bit. I have a little tutorial on, well, I'm not sure how little it is, but a tutorial on painting grass and vegetation. Yeah, that's good for now. Sorry. And let's paint some water. Let's use, doesn't matter which one we use. So this will be in a scene where it's outside, you know, and we can see around here that it's kind of not like bluish and sunny, so it's sort of like an overcast day. So let's just pick a gray sort of color, maybe a little bit of blue, something like that maybe. And we can start just painting in this water. Don't make it too bright though. Can maybe make it a little bit more blue. You never want to overdo the saturation. So since there's not much movement going on in this little pool, we can actually assume that we're gonna see right through here. So what we can start doing is basically taking what we have around here and just painting a little bit under here. Because we're gonna see right through there. Like mostly around the edges, because that's where the pool is the shallowest. And over here we're not gonna see too much of the blending, but we can just add a little bit anyway. Something like that. And we can assume that there's actually some rocks and stuff maybe under here. So let's try to paint a little bit, some small rocks here. Maybe we can put even some rocks on top there too. Just make some small pebbles. Just scatter them around a little bit. Change the size. Maybe there's a sand bank here. Smooth that out a little bit. It's nice to have some hard edges, but yeah, I just want to smooth it out a little bit, like that. And then actually the sand will be visible through the water a little bit, so we can paint a little bit more like that. Maybe even darken it a little bit around the edges as well, because the ground is pretty dark around, and here it will be bright. In the middle it will be brighter. So I'm just going to burn a little bit around here. Like so. And continue to paint. And then we had these rocks, right? So I can try to make a little bit more shadow under them to make them look like actual objects. I don't really care too much about texture right now. Just want to get an okay looking pile of rocks. Like that. So now these rocks will actually also be visible through the water, but I don't want to paint them too bright. And then some more of the blue. And then we can start smudging things out. I mean, I can't just take a regular soft brush like this. Start smoothing things out a little bit. And what we can do now is, so there's a sky above here, and now it just looks like, you know, acid or something. It looks very murky and not too shiny. We could add some ripples coming up to the edges here, and maybe even in the middle. So we sample that color from the middle, and we make it a little bit brighter. We can actually take a soft brush, doesn't matter too much, and just start making lines going into the bank, following the shape. Not making it too uniformly, just a little bit like that. Sort of following the perspective as well. How it goes back. And it's pretty cool that it goes over this color here, because then we can assume that this is actually underwater. If I zoom in a little bit, we can see that this is actually under the water here. And the waves actually get more intense over here. You can make it a little bit brighter in some areas. Not that bright. Maybe even brighter here. to the surrounding. Now I think this water is a little bit too blue for my taste. If we have like an overcast sky, it won't be this blue. If it's just regular water in like in a swamp or something. Water can maybe go out here as well. And where it's flowing, it's actually gonna be a little bit brighter because there's more waves and more movement there. So there we have a pool. Maybe we can add a little tree. So this little tree here will actually reflect on the water. We could take that same tree, copy it, free transform, flip vertical, and depending on the angle we're looking at, it's going to be either longer, shorter, or exactly the same. The same is kind of, I think it's tricky, but yeah, maybe we can make it a little bit shorter, like that. Cut it off a bit. And we can even blur it a little bit. Not too much. Something like that, maybe. And paint over here, so there'll still be water over. And for some reason, the reflections are actually pretty dark, so we could try to darken it a bit. Sometimes they're even darker than the actual thing they're reflecting. Can make it really dark here. Maybe use a softer brush, like that. Now we can make a little rock. We all know how to paint rocks now. Should check out the tutorial on that. Now we don't really have to duplicate again. We can just sample right off there and just start painting how we think or how we see it's actually like looking. So it's like that. Let's make it darker first. I'm just trying to like paint it, you know, vertically symmetrical. Don't have to be perfect with it. Fade it out a bit. It's a little bit dark, this image, so I'm gonna brighten up everything. Command E, Command L, and then just brighten that up a bit. Maybe make a little sandbank around the entire area. Like so. So there's our little pool. Now let's take a look at a river. So if we do a little bit of a landscape again, you can just sample off here. Let's make a little bit more of a landscape here. And I want to make a river like this. So just gonna follow along here and then make it come out like that. So I can actually take the lasso tool. I really like doing this for rivers. And then just select how I want the river to go, like that. And then it gets smaller up here. Something like that. And rivers are very flowing, right? They flow, so we won't be able to see that much through them unless it's like really clear water. So we could just take something like that. You can sample the same color here and just paint over it here. You can even make some variation to the water. Can look up here to see how it looks in miniature. Maybe even some variation inside, just like that. And then Command D to deselect. And there's the river. I mean, I don't have to do that much more. We could just fix up the edges here. I'm thinking about how it foreshortens into the distance. Like over here is more distant, right? Can maybe even go up like that, maybe. And then it disappears. Can make some more flowing lines to indicate how it kind of flows. Just on the edges, it's gonna be a bit more hectic. And some areas are like really hectic with a lot of rocks and stuff. Can maybe add in some rocks there. Some small rocks. Very close to them you can do a few reflections. You can do some more brighter values around them because the waves or the water is breaking up against them, and that makes it look like, you know, it fits in. It can be turbulent behind these two. And you can play around with the brushes to see if there's anything that actually can work. Like so. But don't make it too grainy. Water is usually not grainy. And actually here we might be able to see more of the bottom, so can make it a little bit darker here. Change the use this one. And then, as we did before, can make some brighter strokes over here to indicate some ripples in the water. And we can change some of the color variation as well. So we can take a soft brush, change to maybe overlay. Oops. Maybe make it a little bit more blue. Some parts. And there's a river. So next up, maybe we can try a lake. And actually, for the lake, it's just like the same thing as the pool, just that it's bigger. So if we just make a square here or a rectangle and just start filling in like a sky. The further away something is, the more blue it is, typically. Like that, and we can sample the same color from the sky and make a little lake here. So this actually goes for oceans as well. So I can do both of them here. Just make everything a bit more defined. And here I just locked transparent pixels, so I can't paint anywhere except for on the piece itself. Maybe we can make it a little more like daylight. And I sampled the color from the sky first, so I can have the lake reflecting that as a primary color. That it's pretty sharp over here because that's more of a horizon line. Like here's the horizon line, and then the same thing as we did here. I'm just gonna do like these strokes like that. Make the waves break against here. But now the lake is bigger, so the waves will be broken off into more pieces, I guess. Since it's a lake, it's going to be a little bit calmer than the sea. But I can use these, I have a brush here called Ocean Ripple or something. And I can use a bright color to just make some ripples, maybe even brighter. Actually, we can make it a little bit smaller first, and then do on the horizon. It's gonna be pretty ripply. Ripply, isn't that Metroid? Yeah, like that. And then some parts could have ripples, others don't necessarily need them. Like that, maybe. I can angle it a little bit. It's too much, like that. Let's try to make it darker. So it's always about just testing out, because I'm not really sure exactly how this water actually looks. I'm just trying out, seeing what works. Now I'm just giving it some burn, and it actually makes it a little bit more saturated. But I can use mid-tones instead. So now it kind of looks like this lake has a color of its own. Just continue painting on here. Can make pull some of this white to make some like what we saw here earlier with the reference. Here we can see that it's more white and foamy. So I can do that right here. Just add some foam. Make it smaller as we go away. And we can try doing that thing that we noticed earlier with the triangles. So you can pick some even darker color than this, even more saturated too, maybe bluer. And doing some, let's see, some triangles like we saw earlier. See how that looks. Can maybe make it a bit darker under here where the waves are breaking to give them some more contrast. Make some more foam over these. So it's pretty important what you have around anything in painting. It's all about, you know, the play between the different subjects. It really affects everything else, and can maybe even take some of the sky color, where the waves have actually crashed up. So we can maybe take the lasso tool. Like that. Use a soft brush. And there we have the lake. So the same thing goes for the oceans as well. There's no difference really. It's just that the ocean is a bit more turbulent, and the waves are bigger, and you have a horizon line. So I can just try to make a really simple ocean. Can maybe try to make it like a sunset. Let's see. So just straight ahead. Change the color to some more sunsetty stuff. have the sun in the middle. It's gonna be pretty white almost. Not perfect white, but so now we can take the ripples and make a new layer. Take the same color as we have in the sun, maybe even a little bit less, like that. And then start painting a little bit how the ocean looks, like that maybe. And we could free transform this, make a perspective, and just fit it to our scene. Distort. Maybe have the same brush and use linear dodge. Oh wait, let's use normal. Can combine these, make a new layer, linear dodge, and then here it'll be like we talked about before, where the sun is or the light is just reflecting off and getting elongated like that. Combine those two. Now I can just fix it up a little bit, make some bigger waves. With their wave crests. Can make the sea a little bit more green, turquoise. Let's do that over everything. Now this wave looks really out of context, or doesn't look like it should be there. Maybe we can make a similar beach here. Now I did that little line just to show show the viewer where the lake, where the ocean sort of goes. Can even take the lasso tool and mimic the same thing as before, but this time we can actually sample off the sun and just give it like a bit more glow like that. Maybe some of the sky too. Now I'm just doing this quickly to just save some time, but I hope that you understand what I'm doing. Make some triangles. Take some of the effect brushes. This one. Let's see. This one maybe. Yeah, I can do some spray. These are the shadows of the waves. And there you have it. Now let's take a look at waterfalls. So we can make this a little bit wider. There we go. Brighten it up a little bit. So let's just do a little scene here. Try to sketch a little bit. So the waterfall will come like that. Remove this rock here. Sorry for my phone. And then maybe it can just flow down here. Sometimes it helps to have a sketch. Now I'm painting right over it, but whatever. Some pointy rocks right there. So the water is coming from here and going down there. Can just sample just some color here, and I just want to make a foundation, I guess. So I just start painting vertical strokes like this. Just like that. Give it a little bit darker values as well. Some small rocks up there, and down here as well. And you can find all these brushes in the brush pack. I'll make a video soon about that as well, how to use the different brushes, but I just encourage you to try it out yourself. So now we have the basic waterfall. Can even make it a little bit more that it converges up here. There we go. So up here it'll probably be a little bit brighter because here we have like the sky. Maybe I can paint a little sky here. Merge them together. Sample that color, make it a little bit brighter. And then use maybe some cloud brush or something with a lot of texture to it. Maybe this one, make it smaller. Because here everything is breaking up and it's near the sky. So just do some downstrokes there as well. And as we saw earlier in the reference, let's check it out. We see that it's very like concentrated up here, and then it gets just like cloudy down here. Gotta turn off my phone or something. There we go. All right. It gets more cloudy and a bit more, yeah, crazy here. So misty. So we can do the same here. That. Just make the brush a little bit bigger. Cloud brush. We don't want to make it look like it's cloudy here. We just want to make it misty, I guess. It's a good word. saturated. Can use some other texture brush, maybe try this one. Can add a little rock here maybe to break it up. And then the water will come crashing down here as well, starting a little bit smaller, more concentrated. And then get crazier down here. From behind as well. Here it's just cloudy. And since the water is breaking down here, we'll have quite a lot of water mist coming up like this. Can add some sparkles too, some of this stuff. And there's our waterfall. So we can see here that water sort of looks like, you know, it takes on a lot of different shapes, right? And it's kind of hard to predict how water will look, but we just have to check out, you know, different references and see how water behaves in different conditions. Like here we have very subtle, you know, calm sort of little pond. Here we have more roaring river, or not so roaring, but it's like flowing. Here we have a windy lake day. Oh, sorry, windy day in the lake. Windy lakey day. And then here we have the ocean. It's always like waves and stuff. And here we have a waterfall, which is like the most intense of them all. And you can combine all of these different aspects to create, or different, you know, types of water bodies to create whatever scene you're thinking about creating, where water is present. And one thing we haven't talked about now is actually reflection. I mean, we have talked a little bit about how water sort of reflects, you know, like here. We could do, I can show you a little bit how I could add like a little bit more reflection to the scenes. If we take this, like we see that this mountain is kind of dark here. So that might actually reflect a little bit where it's not where it's not too much white, you know, waves around here. So we can add something like that. Make it a little bit darker around that area, and this one too. Can maybe even add in a little bit of that green, but be sure to not overdo it. And this one as well, maybe. Now we can just add a little bit more white stuff to blend it in. So we have a little bit more reflection there. And the same for this painting maybe. Here we have a little bit more dark under here, and it will reflect down. Maybe some here too. The reflection can be darker or brighter. You can play around with that. Sometimes it works better with either. Here we don't have that much. Maybe we could have like a little bit more here. Maybe even a dark shadow there. But it's pretty like roaring here, so there won't be too many reflections. We could talk a little bit about how it reflects over like really bright stuff. Like we did a little bit here. Could even reflect even more here. But how to make it look like like actual water. Try to make a new scene. Let's see. Just paint straight on. Let's see. And we can have some cityscape here. Oh, that's a bad color. Like that, similar to that, or maybe let's make a castle. Like at night, to illustrate this better. And we can try to just, maybe there's like a fire here, or just a few lights maybe from the city. Now here's the lake, right? So let's maybe change the color. Something like that. And if we want to make like a really smooth sort of lake, but still have some ripples, we could add first some ocean ripples like this. It's too bright. Just very soft like that. I'm gonna take this part, I'm gonna copy that, or just do layer via copy. Free transform, flip vertical, just put it down a little bit. And now I can actually go up to, let's see, filter, blur, motion blur, and then do a vertical motion blur. There we go. Like that. And just erase a little bit. Oh, let's see. There it is. Yeah, it didn't blur too much. Wait, did I actually blur it? Oh yeah, I didn't blur it. Okay, let's do it again. Blur. And then remove some of it here. Like that. Maybe we can make the lake a little bit more defined. Just make it a little bit brighter here. Add a little bit of horizon there. And we could just do some small dots here to show that it's reflecting down. And this thing that we did before with the blur helps us see where we have the light. Like that. And here I can see there's a bit more like dark. I can just pronounce that a little bit more and then just paint the same thing under it. Maybe even pronounce this a bit more. So that's one way of doing this, and it works really well. And that's basically most of what I want to say really about painting water. I mean, I can show you more examples and stuff, but I highly recommend just checking out more references and playing around and seeing what you might come up with yourself. I will do one walkthrough right now. I'm gonna paint like one scene featuring most of these things, and you can see how I use these different techniques. So stay tuned. All right, guys, here's a little quick walkthrough of a painting that I did. Took about 40 minutes, and yeah, I've sped it up quite a bit now. So yeah, I'm gonna use some of the techniques that I talked about before. This is gonna be a river here. You can see I'm just doing some general shapes right now with one of the texture brushes. Looks like a cold environment right now, so just adding in some waterfalls and figuring out where the river will be. And I'm also gonna add some snow in this painting. I'm gonna make a tutorial soon on how to paint snow, how to get it realistic and stuff like that. But this is more of a speed painting. And yeah, I'm just like outlining all the major elements right now, like where the waterfall will be, and just getting a feel for it. Here I'm just adding in the snow on a new layer, just to give it some more, something different. Like most people don't really paint that much snow, and I think it's a pretty cool subject to explore. So as you saw earlier in this tutorial, I mean, I think water isn't that hard to paint, because once you figure out how it works, in nature, then it's just about, you can apply it on every single thing, like a waterfall or a lake or a river or whatever it is, because like we talked about before, it's about transparency and opacity, and then some color and also reflectivity. So once you understand that, you can apply that on anything. Just making some more snow using soft brush and some lasso tool. So when it comes to speed painting, you don't have to be so exact, and it doesn't have to be too realistic. I'm just like putting in my idea right now, and not really focusing on making things look too realistic or whatever. Also, I'm not using any single photos in this painting. It's all texture brushes and regular Photoshop brushes. So you'll see the techniques that I've used before on the water, where I'm just outlining where the waves sort of break against the shoreline. And you can see that there's some gradients in the water too. And it kind of has its own color as well, like a little bit more light blue. Just doing some trees. And when it comes to painting rivers, they're kind of like a natural path to where the eye wants to go. So it's important to align that with what you want to show your viewers. So now the focal point is kind of around the waterfall there, like more of the middle, and the viewer kind of wants to go from the left to the right and then swirl around into the middle. Just change some composition there, like did a warp. That's a pretty powerful tool when you're just playing around and you're not sure what composition you want to have or perspective. And I think this worked a lot better, just having this more pronounced perspective. Some linear dodge, brightening up some stuff. Now I'm just adding some sort of like ruins or some sort of stone building or something, I guess. And I'm gonna be adding some sort of light there, some fire. So you see me right now just adding some flames in there, doing some linear dodge as well to brightening it up. And this will create some pretty cool reflections on the water later that you'll see me do, just to illustrate how I paint reflections on the water. Because right now it looks like the water is too opaque. So there I just did it, copied it and motion blurred it. And now it really looks like water here. And just fixing it up and stuff, blending it in again. Creating some separation between the water and the shoreline there. And adding a bit of waves, some ripples. And I decided I wanted to make it more of like an evening scene, like maybe even nightfall. So I darkened down everything. It also works better for this color scheme right here. Now I'm just pronouncing the waterfalls a bit more. As I said before, they're gonna be sharper where they sort of emanate from, and then down further down it's gonna be more cloudy. Now I'm just adding some more light on the horizon there to give it a little bit more dynamic in this painting. I thought it looked a little bit too flat. And it's just a speed painting, so I don't really care too much how it turns out. I just wanted to illustrate how I paint some water, and you know, this time it became like a winter scene. Man, this coffee is really good. You guys should try some Swedish coffee. Just adding some snow with some particles, and I'm gonna blur it and warp it. Because snow doesn't fall like rain. It sort of swirls around a lot more. I guess it turned out alright. It added some more atmosphere in this painting. Typically I'd actually use more photo elements, because that speeds things up and it makes it look more realistic. Like more of the mountains and stuff like that, or maybe even the some water. Actually, you could use photos for that as well. You can use a mixer brush, like I showed in the painting vegetation tutorial. But I decided to just do everything completely painted. Now just trying out some idea that I had, making some noise, and then blurring it to make it look like snow. Looked pretty okay, I think, but I thought it was too much. You could actually do that and like erase where, or just darken where you don't want, where there's not much light, and then where there is light sources, you could brighten that up, and that makes it look more realistic. And also just check out some references on that as well. That's really important, I think, to check out references. But anyways, here's the here's the finished painting. Like I said, it took about 40 minutes, and painted some waterfall, some mists down there, and sort of a river flowing down. And yeah, that's about it. I think that's what I wanted to say about water for now. I mean, I can go more in depth to it and show you more techniques, but I think that's enough for this video. So let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you want to see anything else, just let me know, and I'll try to get that out as soon as possible. And don't forget to sign up to the Evenant Design Facebook page or group, where you can discuss with people and join our weekly challenges and so on. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.